Once you have received an invite to review, you are ready to get started. There are a few things to keep in mind when participating in peer review. First, if you have agreed to review but are not able to make the deadline, tell the editor as soon as possible. In some cases, the editor will be able to extend the deadline. It is good to be direct and realistic with your turnaround time. Next, make sure to read the Committee on Publication Ethics Guidelines and that you have discussed any potential conflicts of interest with the editor. Now we are ready to dive in. But wait a minute. Now that you've agreed, what does the editor actually want you to do? Give topic-specific expertise when evaluating a manuscript. Make them aware of any poor quality articles. Indicate the strengths and weaknesses of the paper and provide enough detail to help the author make revisions or to understand the reasons for rejection. Provide suggestions to improve the overall quality of the paper. Assess the validity of the study or studies in the context of a particular field. Provide enough information for them to make an appropriate decision. For example, reject or accept pending minor or major revisions. Help protect against author misconduct, like plagiarism, data manipulation, and unethical research practices, as well as general fact-checking and looking for errors. Now we're ready to start the actual review. Start by reading the whole paper to get an overall first impression. In general, does it read well? It is not the reviewer's job to proofread or suggest extensive grammatical revisions to a paper. If the language is poor throughout, include this in your comments. Does it meet the journal's aims and scope? Depending on the journal, you may be asked questions such as, is this research significant within the field? Is the work new or original? Does it add to the subject area? Now you've done the initial assessment, you can start your more in-depth review. For this section, we'll use the example of a research paper. Does the title reflect the subject of the paper? Are there any redundant or missing key words? The abstract should be a concise summary of the main points of the article. After reading it, you should understand the objective, key data, and conclusion of the manuscript. The introduction should cover the reason the study was conducted. Does it give enough background and information to set the scene and put the study into context? Have the authors provided enough relevant reference citations? Are the aims of the study stated clearly and specifically? Thoroughly review the materials and methods section to make sure the study design and methodology are appropriate, valid, and described in such a way so it can be replicated by others in the field. Has the source of equipment and materials been adequately described? Is there sufficient detail regarding study populations, samples, controls, procedures, endpoints, and data collection? Have the authors included full description of the analysis performed, including use of statistical tests and software and other pertinent information? Has previously reported methodology been accurately cited? Should any additional analysis be conducted? Please note that no results or interpretation should be presented in the materials and methods section. Next, the author should report the results of all the tests described in the methods. Are the results presented in this section clear and concise? Flag any analyses that have not been specified in the methods section. Is a specialist statistical review needed? Could complex findings be shown more clearly in graphs, tables, or figures? Is all of this data necessary in the main paper? Should any data be moved to supplemental materials? Do the numbers make sense, and are they consistent with what's reported in the tables and figures? Be on the lookout for data errors and inconsistencies. Again, there should be no interpretation of the results in this section. Tables and figures should help the readability of the manuscript by giving details of the findings without having to repeat it in the text. These should stand alone together with their legends, so the reader can understand the display item without reading the main text. Identify any tables or figures that can be supplemental data to help improve readability. Review all display items for accuracy. Do the titles and legends adequately describe the figures and tables? Are graphs, axis headings, and data labels readable? Are the findings described in the legend clearly visible in the figure? Is the data consistent across the text, tables, and figures? Is it possible that any of the images have been manipulated? The discussions and conclusions section are where the main findings of the paper are accurately summarised and put into context of existing literature with appropriate reference citations. Not only should the author describe the strengths of the study, but more importantly, the limitations should be discussed in full. For example, bias, measurement techniques, and sample selection. Do the authors achieve the aims stated in the introduction? Is the conclusion balanced in light of the evidence and arguments presented? It should be consistent with the aims, methodology, and results. Flag any unnecessary conclusions or generalizations. Are there statements on ethics approval and informed consent? If so, do they seem appropriate? If they are not there, should they be? Do the references give adequate up-to-date evidence on which key statements are based? Are any references to key related research missing? Are any references redundant? Watch out for an excess of author self-citation. In some cases, self-citation is acceptable, depending on the materials presented in the manuscript. If applicable, have the authors followed the appropriate reporting guidelines? Are SI units and specific nomenclature correct? Are any potential conflicts of interest worth noting? When you are ready to give your feedback, take the following into consideration: the aims and scope of the journal, whether you have been asked to comment on novelty or solely on soundness of science. Give clear and detailed comments to the editor and author. Be objective, specific, and constructive, and be ready to recommend if a paper should be accepted, rejected, or revised with major or minor revisions. Also, be clear about what needs to be added, removed, or revised. Flag any areas of the review process or manuscript you feel you were unable to comment on in the confidential comments to the editor section. As a peer reviewer, you'll play a significant role in contributing to the scholarly community and to the integrity of journals publishing. Don't forget to use your Sage Reviewer Rewards, which includes 60 days of free access to Sage journals, as well as 25% off all Sage books. Be sure to sign up for a Publons account so you can receive verified credit for your peer review activity. Thank you for being a reviewer. Visit the Journal Reviewer Gateway for more information on reviewer benefits and the peer review process. Join us in these other videos for more information on peer review ethics and how to become a peer reviewer.